我们现在开始讲这个今天晚上的课。那么今天晚上的课呢，我们继续讲《般若波罗蜜多心经》的内容。
So we're going to begin now with this evening's teaching, and the topic of tonight's teaching is going to be a continuation of our these 3 nights teaching on the Heart Sutra.
那么《般若波罗蜜多心经》因为我们这一次呢，因为时间的关系，没有办法展开的详细的讲。
So the Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra, this time due to time constraints, we are not able to go through in a really detailed way.
本来我们的安排还有2天的时间，一共是有5天的时间来讲这个般若波罗蜜多心经。
Originally, there had been 5 teachings scheduled for the Heart Sutra, but that has been shortened.
然后，如果用5天的时间来讲的话，这个般若波罗蜜多心经呢，大概的内容呢，应该是可以的。
If indeed we did have these 5 days of teaching, it probably would have been possible for us to go through all of this content.
但是我们的这个行程就有一点点的变化，所以就是最后的2天就取消了。
However, due to changes to the schedule, it was necessary to cancel the last 2 days of teaching.
非常抱歉。
So I'm really sorry about this.
所以呢，我们就这个5天的这个内容呢，我们只能在3天当中要讲完。
So we've got no other choice but to squeeze 5 days of teaching into 3 days.
所以我们今天呢，主要讲这个般若波罗蜜多的修法、修心的方法。
So tonight what we are going to be mainly addressing is meditating on the Heart Sutra, or practice methods based on the Heart Sutra.
我们昨天和前天2天的时间当中呢，就是讲了这个空心什么叫做空心？空心的这个大概的内容。
So over the past 2 days, we've been looking at emptiness, what emptiness refers to, and have also been exploring this concept. 如
果我们真正要这个要知道什么是真，什么是空心，那么一定要证悟大圆满、大受因。
So if one really wants to know what the realization of emptiness is, then it's necessary to realize the meaning of the great perfection, or Mahamudra.
或者是汉传佛教的禅宗讲的明心见性。
Or otherwise, what the Chan tradition in Chinese Buddhism refers to as gaining an understanding, or self-understanding of one's mind.
这样子我们彻底的了解什么叫做空心。
By means of this, it is possible for us to gain a total understanding of what emptiness means.
如果我们还没有证悟空心的时候，还没有亲身经历体会这样子的话，我们的语言总是有局限性所以就是没有办法没有办法很准确的这个表达这个空心的内容。
Until one has gained an understanding of emptiness personally, or rather until one has gained a personal experience or insight into emptiness, then our conventional language is limited in its capacity to accurately express what it means.
虽然我们的语言没有办法准确的表达这个空心但是呢，通过我们的语言，我们可以逐步的这个证悟空心，这个应该是没问题的。
Even though language isn't possible to precisely describe or express the nature of emptiness, it is probably possible for us through language, by means of language, to gain a gradual understanding of it.
今天我们在座的所有的人都有机会证悟空心，我们每一个人都有机会。
Everyone sitting here this evening has the opportunity to realize emptiness. This is an opportunity that every person has.
然后证悟了以后呢，很多人想知道，那么证悟了以后这个证悟以后，我们的生活又会变得什么样子呢？然后呢，证悟以后的状态是什么样子？
So many people want to know what it's like once we realize the nature of emptiness. What change does this bring to our lives? What state is one in post realizing emptiness?
简单的说，证悟了以后，就彻底的打破了我们的自私性。
Putting it simply, one could say that upon realizing the nature of emptiness, we completely break through our selfishness.
然后彻底的可以断除我们对名利的这些执着。
And are able to completely eliminate our attachment to things like power and personal benefit, personal interest.
那么彻底的这些执着都没有了以后呢，是不是等于是我们从此以后就不生活了，不工作了？不是。
So does it mean then that once we are without these attachments that we will never really work again and lead our lives as normal? Well, this is not the case, no.
证悟了以后，这个肉体还是需要的。
After becoming enlightened or realizing emptiness, we still need this physical body of ours.
只要需要这个肉体存在这样子的话，那么我们就是要满足它的需求。
So long as this physical body is existent, we need to meet its basic needs.
需要满足它的需求，那么就需要生活，需要工作。
So in order to meet its needs, it's necessary to lead our lives, it's necessary to work.
但是那个时候呢，只是为了满足肉体的需求而已。
However, after realizing emptiness, our work, etc., is only in order to meet the needs of our bodies.
证悟了以后，大乘佛教就讲是证悟以后是一个什么样的状态呢？证悟以后，因为我们对这个名和利没有了执着以后呢，他们给我们带来的这些所有的烦恼，所有的痛苦也就不存在。
So the Mahayana teachings say, in relation to the post-enlightenment state, that once we have realized emptiness, because of our severing our attachment to things such as fame and gain, the affliction and suffering that these things bring us will no longer exist.
我们很多人认为那既然不追求名，不追求利，那这样子人活着有什么样的意义呢？人活着有没有意思呢？
Some people might say, well, what meaning is there to live a life that is not in pursuit of things like fame and gain? What is the meaning in life then?
我们认为人活着的意义就是为了名和利，这就是我们反复的价值观。
However, the notion that one lives for these things, for fame and for gain, is a very worldly kind of value system.
人的一个人的生命的价值，一个人的这个生存的意义，不仅仅是名和利，还有很多很多。
The value of an individual's life, the meaning of their life, is not confined to these things. There is much, much else.
证悟了以后，然后真正的幸福，真正的快乐那个时候我们会感受得到。
after we attain enlightenment, then we will have real experience of happiness and real joy.
然后我们这个时候这种强大的幸福感、快乐拥有以后，我们就发现这个轮回当中，之前我们认为是幸福是快乐的，根本就不算幸福和快乐。
And with the extremely robust sense of happiness and joy that we attain thereby, we will come to appreciate that all of those things that we previously thought meant happiness in cyclic existence indeed do not or are not.
菩萨证悟了空性以后到成佛之间的这个过程，它分了10个阶段10个阶段。这10个阶段叫做师地菩萨的师地，从一地到师地。
So from the time a bodhisattva realizes emptiness until he or she achieves Buddhahood, this process is divided into 10 different stages or steps, and these are referred to as the 10 bhumis.
然后第一地叫什么名字呢？第一地叫做寂息地，寂息就是非常非常欢喜极其欢喜的意思寂息地。
The first of these bhumis is or means, I don't know if this is the exact translation of it, but is the bhumi of extreme joy.
为什么证悟了就是那么叫这个寂息地呢？因为证悟了以后然后就是真正的皆大欢喜心生真正的欢喜，真正的幸福所以叫做寂息地。
So the reason that this bhumi is known as that of extreme joy is because after realizing emptiness, this is the experience that one has, one of extreme happiness and joy.
因为他的心里没有任何的恐惧，没有任何的担忧。
And the reason that this extreme joy is experienced is because the practitioner has no fear or no worry in their minds.
恐惧和担忧都是来自于我执、自私。
So fear and worry all stem from self-clinging or selfishness.
我执这个我执、自私，就像一个肿瘤一样。比如说，人的身体里长了一个肿瘤，然后呢开始生病然后把这个肿瘤切掉了，扔掉以后呢这病也就不存在。一样，我们的这个自私和这个我执断掉了以后呢，然后就是因为这个我执产生的所有的烦恼、所有的痛苦，也自然也就消失了。
So self-clinging and selfishness are just like a tumor that grows in our body. A tumor grows and we become sick. However, once the tumor is removed, the illness no longer exists. It's the same with self-clinging and selfishness. Once they are eliminated from our mind stream, since they were the source of all of our affliction and suffering, with the removal or elimination of this, our affliction and suffering naturally disappear.
这个时候我们对死亡没有任何的恐惧。
And at this point, we have no fear for death.
然后对来世也没有任何的恐惧。
And no fear in respect of our future lifetimes.
从这一生走到下一世，就像一个公园然后又到另外一个公园去玩一样。
And indeed, passing from this life to our future life just seems like going from one park to another to play.
就像这个纽约的中央公园，从这个中央公园，然后呢到另外一个公园去玩一样，它没有任何的担忧，一切这一世、下一世都像公园一样一切都是没有任何的担忧，没有任何的这个恐惧。
So it's just like passing from Central Park in New York to another park. There is no worry moving from this life to the next life. There is no sense of concern, no fear.
然后同时他发现从此以后就可以利益很多很多的众生，可以帮助很多的众生，所以心里产生非常非常强大的欢喜心。
And at the same time, the practitioner discovers that he or she is also able to go about benefiting many, many other beings. And for this reason, they give rise to great joy in their minds.
我们这个时候虽然是证悟了空性，但是这个身体仍然还存在。
So at this point, even though the practitioner has realized emptiness, their physical body still remains.
证悟空性就是内心当中没有执着并不是说我们这个身体不存在。
So realizing emptiness means that there is no attachment in the inner mind. It doesn't mean that the physical body does not exist.
证悟了空心证悟空心以后，我们每一个人都基本上都能够感受到这一切。
So after realizing emptiness, every person is able to have experience of all of this.
我们每一个人都是因为这个为了现实生活天天都是忙，然后我们没有时间去学习，没有时间去修心这个空心这是真的是非常非常遗憾，非常遗憾的事情。
So that everyone is so busy every day with their ordinary lives and have no time to study and practice or cultivate emptiness really is a very sad and regrettable thing.
如果我们有一个稍微比世俗的东西再高一点的理想再高一点的追求和梦想这样子的话，那我们人真的可以做非常非常好的事情。
If we are able to have ideals or dreams that are just a little bit higher than our ordinary existences, then humans really are able to achieve very good things.
最遗憾的是我们的理想我们的追求永远都在名和利上面。
The most regrettable thing, however, is that our ideals and pursuits always revolve around fame and gain.
它永远都离不开名和利。
They never leave or depart from these two things.
所以他这一生再成功，也就是只是得到一点点名和利而已，然后除了这个以外，得不到任何的东西。
So in the space of a lifetime, no matter how successful one is, one only achieves in terms of these things, fame or gain. Besides this, one doesn't achieve anything else.
所以我们就是希望我们每一个人就是每一天就是花一点点的时间记一点时间出来就是在这个短短的时间当中去思考，去追求稍微高一点的这个稍微高一点的应该有点稍微高一点的目标。
So I really hope that every day everyone is able to spend some time, or rather extract some time from their day, so that within this short space of time they can contemplate or rather strive for higher goals.
接下来我们就讲这个般若心经的修法。
So now I would like to move on to the practice of the Heart Sutra.
首先我们的这个所有的这个痛苦所有的烦恼都是来自于我执。
First of all of our suffering and all of our mental anguish stems from self-clinging.
那么什么是我执呢？就是我们对自我的执着。
So what is self-clinging? Well, self-clinging is attachment to ego.
我们的身体的里里外外，实际上真实存在的是什么呢？就是肉体除了肉体以外，就是精神。除了这两个东西以外，是没有任何东西的。
So in terms of our selves, there is our physical body, and aside from our physical body, there is our mind. Aside from these two parts or components, there's nothing else.
实际上肉体精神分开以后我们去分析去观察这样子的时候呢肉体它也不能说是自我，精神它也不是自我。
However, once we separate these two things, the physical body and the mind, and analyze and examine them, we're not able to say that the physical body is ourself or even that the mind is ourself.
但是我们的意识把我们的肉体和精神联系起来组合以后，然后我们的意识就把他们两个认为这是自我这个是自我，是我们意识的执着。
However, our consciousness, our mental consciousness, combines our body and mind and regards this as our self. So this notion is an attachment of our mind or mental consciousness.
然后我们的意识当中就是建立了一个这样子的自我的时候从此以后就产生了太多太多的烦恼。
And our mind consciousness, from the time that it constructs this sense of self, goes about creating a great deal of mental affliction.
因为这些烦恼全部都是有这个自我的执着以后产生的，所以是它导致的。
So it is only all of this affliction arises only after the clinging to self arises, and so it is this self-clinging or ego-clinging that is the cause of the affliction.
比如说在一个山上周边的这个草丛里面蛇比较多的地方蛇比较多的地方，然后呢光线比较暗的时候一个人进来一打开门然后呢就看到一条蛇实际上它不是蛇，实际上就是一个绳子实际上就是一条绳子但是呢因为第一个原因就是因为光线不是很明亮第二这个周边本身就有蛇所以呢他把这个绳子当作一条蛇，他以为是一条蛇。
In a mountain area, in the surrounding grassy areas, let's say, there are many snakes. And when a person walks into their house, because the light is not particularly adequate, when they open the door, they think they see a snake on the floor of the house. In actual fact, it's not a snake, it's just a piece of rope, but for two reasons. The first reason, that the light is not so adequate, and secondly, that there are snakes snakes do exist in the area. They believe what they see on the floor to be a snake.
这个时候实际上这个房间里面呢没有一条蛇只有一条绳子，它没有一条蛇。但是因为人以为有一条蛇，所以呢他的内心当中就产生了恐惧实际上不是蛇，一点都没有用因为他以为是蛇，所以就产生了恐惧。
In reality, it is not a snake, it's just a piece of rope. However, because the person believes that what they see is a snake, they give rise to fear in their mind. In reality, it isn't a snake, but because they believe it is, they feel fear.
所以这个实际上它不是，实际上没有蛇啊，但是没有用啊，他认为是蛇啊，所以他心里就开始产生恐惧，产生烦恼。
So even though it isn't a snake, this doesn't make a difference because the person believes it is a snake. They feel fear. They feel strong negative emotions.
比如说在山里这个农田这个庄稼有些时候经常有动物来吃这个庄稼，这样子以后呢这个种地的人就在田里就做一个稻草人。那么动物看到了这个稻草人以后呢，他以为是人然后他的内心当中开始产生了恐惧他就不敢来吃这个庄稼。
Sometimes in fields, in agricultural fields, the crops that are grown there, animals often come and eat. So often what local people do is erect scarecrows in the fields, and when the animals see them, they think they are a person, and they feel fear, and therefore they don't come and eat the crops.
实际上稻草人他不是人但是呢，因为动物不知道，动物不明白他认为是人，所以他就开始有这个恐惧。
In reality, it's not a person, it's a scarecrow. However, because the animal doesn't understand this to be the case, they feel fear.
稻草人还有就是绳子这些都会让人产生这个恐惧。
So scarecrows and pieces of rope are all capable of inducing fear in people.
那么我们的现实生活当中的这些所有的恐惧，就像动物对稻草人产生了恐惧一模一样我们的这个恐惧也是这样子产生的。
So all of the different fears that we experience in our everyday life is just the same as the way that the scarecrow induces fear in animals. All of our fear arises in the same way.
实际上是没有所谓的自我。
In reality, there is no actual self.
这个我非常清楚，我们很多人是不太理解的。
I'm very clear that many people don't understand this fully.
因为这个观点对我们的冲击力非常的大。
Because this particular view, its capacity, its what's the word? Its impact on us, the attack that it constitutes is very great indeed.
我们很多人一下子第一个反应就是说，怎么可能没有我呢？看我不就在这儿吗？怎么可能没有我
？Most people's first reaction would be to say, "How can it be that there is no self? How could that possibly be?"
请大家先不要激动。
However, everyone, please don't get too worked up to begin with.
要淡定。
Please remain calm.
安静下来。
Remain quiet and calm.
慢慢的去思考。
And just contemplate this slowly.
然后就会发现一个非常意外的事情。
And in so doing, you will discover a very surprising thing.
我们从生下来到现在我们的意识都在往外面去分析这个对那个不对，这个好那个不好，一直都在到外面去分析和判断。
From the time that we were born right up until the present, our minds are always analyzing and evaluating the external world, asking whether this is right or wrong, whether this is good or bad.
他从来没有思考过他自己是什么。
Our mind has never examined what it indeed is.
他从来也没有去看他自己到底是个什么。
Our mind has never looked to see what it really is.
一直都是看外面的东西。
It is always looking or observing external things.
然后我们人也是我们人就是永远都是是一个观察者，我们去观察外面的各种各样的东西，然后呢，我们断定什么东西好，什么东西不好。那么我们永远都是一个观察者到外面去观察，从来没有观察我自己到底是什么。
And humans are exactly the same. We're always in the position of observers, observing the external world, judging whether this is good, whether that is bad. What we have never observed is, in fact, ourselves, what we ourselves really are.
然后我们现在就是往回看一下，看看自己到底是什么样子。这个时候呢，然后我们非常意外的发现就是出乎意料，这一定会是一个出乎意料的事情。
However, if we now turn inwards to look at ourselves, we will necessarily discover that it's something that is extremely surprising.
开始的时候，我们不知道我是什么。
To begin with, we don't know what we are.
然后再进一步的时候呢，我们发现不存在我。再进一步观察的时候，我们发现我不存在。
However, if we look further into this, we will discover that we, in fact, don't exist.
这个时候，我们很多人产生恐惧。
At this point, many people experience fear.
就是有个恐高症的人到了50层楼几十层楼的时候呢，很多时候都不敢往下看。
It's just the same as people who have a fear of heights. When they ascend a building of 50 or 60 stories, they don't dare look down.
往下看，他产生恐惧，所以他一定会往后退。往后退，他不敢从这儿往下看。
Because if they look down, they'll feel fear. Therefore, they immediately step back.
这个时候，我们很多人会害怕。
In this moment, many people will feel fear.
不要害怕，没关系，没有发生任何事情，本来就是这样子。
However, there's no reason to feel fear because nothing, in fact, has happened. Things are as they've always been.
没有发生任何的事情，我们本来就是这样子。
Nothing happened. This is how we've always already been.
只不过之前我们没有发现而已。
It's only that up until now we had not discovered this to be the way things are.
没有我们可以照样的生活。
Without self, it's possible to live as normal.
那我们很多人一定会想，没有我，那谁生活呢？谁去生活呢？
Many people will, of course, ask, well, without a self, then who is it that goes about living their life?
大家想想生活就是吃喝玩乐吃不就是我们的牙齿嚼完了以后送到这个喉咙，最后就要胃里面就最后就是消化，最后排泄，这个不就是这样子吗？这个有我们的习惯就可以了，不需要自我。
If everybody thinks about it, then these lives of us primarily revolve around eating, drinking, and leisure. In order to have food, one puts it into one's mouth, one chews, one digests it, and the food ultimately leaves one's body. This is something that a process that our organs can achieve. It's not necessarily to have a self for this to take place.
除了这个以外，我们什么时候看见过 自我在吃。
Aside from this process that takes place, when have we seen a self that eats?
喝东西也是这样子把液体灌在嘴巴里面然后通过喉咙，通过食道，通过胃，最后消化，最后排泄那这叫做喝。
And it's the same with drinks as well. This involves taking a fluid into our mouth, the throat moves it down to our esophagus, moves it to our stomach, we digest it, and this process is what we know as drinking.
那这个也不是自我在喝，就是我们的器官在消化。
So this process isn't one of a self-drinking, but rather of organs digesting.
这样子每一个这个生活的细节都是用我们的身体，用我们的感官在完成。
So every detail like this in our life is accomplished through our body and our sensory faculties.
我们的感官这个完成的工作，我们以为自我在完成，自我在做这件事情。
The various work or tasks that our sensory faculties accomplish, we regard as having been accomplished by ourselves.
所以所以准确的说，自我是什么？自我就是一个抽象的概念，它根本就不是一个具体的东西。
So, putting it in accurate terms, the self is just an abstract concept. In no way is it a concrete thing.
虽然我们今天是要讲具体的修法，但是在这个之前呢，还有一个理论稍微要大家明白一下。
Even though today our plan is to teach a particular practice method, before doing this, there was some theoretical component that I wanted to share with everyone.
昨天我们讲过了，肉体它是一大堆的这个东西堆积在一起这个这样子的东西，一大堆的东西，它不是一体，这个我们大家已经明白了。
So last night we talked about how our physical body is an aggregate of many different things that are combined or heaped together. That is, our body is not just one single thing or entity. This is something that we came to understand yesterday evening.
然后我们就是在这个肉体上面，我们没有找到自我的时候呢，然后我们会说我们的精神就是自我。
So when we are not able to locate a self in this physical body of ours, we will then say, well, self is our mind.
那么精神它也不是一个东西，我们的精神是无数的瞬间连接起来了以后呢，就变成了我们的情绪和我们的这个观念，或者是我们的观点。
But in actual fact, our mind is not one single thing either. In fact, our mind is many countless moments that are linked together to form our moods, our views, our thoughts.
一定要告诉大家一件事情，请大家注意一下这个，然后呢，要大家也好思考一下这个问题。
So I'd like to share something with everyone, and I'd like everyone to pay attention to it and to think about it carefully.
大家知道过去是什么？当然知道，昨天是过去。
So does everyone know what the past is? Well, of course, yesterday is the past.
好，大家也知道未来是什么，明天就是未来。
And everyone knows what the future is. Tomorrow is the future.
那么昨天我们今天8月24号，今天我们把它定位现在，然后呢这个23号就是过去，25号就是未来。
So if we were to designate today's date, the 24th of August, as the present or now, then yesterday, the 23rd of August, would be the past, and tomorrow, the 25th of August, would be the future.
那么今天是24号，那么23号就是过去，它在吗？现在在吗？
So if today is the 24th and yesterday and it's now, then yesterday was the 23rd. Does the 23rd still exist?
它现在存在吗？
Does it exist, the 23rd now?
大家认为它现在存不存在？
What does everyone have to say about this? Does it exist or does it not? No.
不存在啊，非常好，不存在。好，那么25号。就是未来，那么未来，明天现在存在吗？
How about tomorrow, the 25th? Does this yet exist?
也不存在。好，那么这样子以后呢，现在就是8点过8点钟。那么我们现在8点钟了，8点钟这个9点钟是未来6点钟。就是过去是一样的道理，对吗？
So it's exactly the same if we were to designate the time now, 8 o'clock, as the present. This would mean that 6 o'clock were the past and 9 o'clock would be the future. So this is the same principle, isn't it?
这样子以后呢，这个8月24号的6点钟之前的6点钟之前的这个时间。现在存在吗？
So does the time proceeding before 6 o'clock on the 24th of August still exist?
存在吗？好，不存在。
No, it doesn't. It doesn't exist.
然后呢，现在是8点过，然后9点钟以后就是未来。那未来现在存在吗？
So if now is 8 o'clock, does 9 o'clock and the time after that yet exist? No.
存在吗？也不存在。好，不存在，都不存在。不存在，然后现在就是8点20分钟，大概20分钟。好，那么8点20分钟，19分钟之前叫做过去然后呢，21分钟之后就叫做未来那么这个19分钟之前存在吗？
So if now the time being 8:20 is the present, we can say that 8:19 is the past and 8:21 is the future. Does 8:19 still exist? No.
好，不存在。好，非常好，不存在。然后呢，22分钟之后就是未来。那么未来现在存在吗？
Does the future 8:22 yet exist?
也不存在。好，也不存在，非常好，不存在。然后这个表就是没有这个秒针，不知道是几秒钟了这个比如说是30秒钟现在假设现在是30秒钟那30秒钟这个29秒钟之前都叫做过去31秒钟之后都叫做未来那么29秒钟之前的这个世界，万事万物在这个时间段发生的一切，现在存在吗？
So this watch that I have doesn't have a second hand, so I can't tell how many seconds past the minute it is, but let's just say that it was 30 seconds past the minute. If everything before this were the past, does this still exist?
不存在，不存在。那现在就不能说存在了。那刚才跟前面的道理是一模一样然后这个31秒钟之后都叫做未来。那么未来现在存在吗？
So if everything from 31 seconds past the hour onwards is the future, does this yet exist?
不存在是吧？
No,
都
it
不存在
doesn't.
好，不存在。那么 现在这样子真正存在的是什么呢？真正存在的就只有1秒钟。
So what does exist, the only thing that does exist is just 1 second of time.
1秒钟再分下去也可以，但是呢，因为太详细了，以后我们不好记，我们1秒钟就作为一个最短的时间的单位。
So it's possible to divide 1 second into smaller units. However, because these are too small, it's not easy, convenient for us to remember. So let's make a second the smallest unit that we work with.
实际上，我们的身体、我们的意识、我们的一切就是1秒钟。
In actual fact, our body, our minds, in fact, everything is just amounts to 1 second.
这个1秒钟结束了以后呢，它开始下1秒钟。
As soon as this 1 second passes, the next second begins.
然后无数的1秒钟。
And then countless further seconds ensue.
这些当中真正存在的就只有1秒钟，前后都是空白。
However, of all of these seconds, the only one that truly exists is 1, and everything to the either side of this 1 second is empty or blank.
但是因为这个变化的速度很快，所以呢，我们的意识把这东西呢就当做一条这样子以后呢，我们认为昨天的我、现在的我、明天的我，我们的这个意识当中就产生了一个这样子的概念。
It's because these changes take place so rapidly that our mind turns them into one continuum, and so thereby the mind looks upon the self of yesterday, the self of today, and the self of tomorrow as one self.
这个真的是一个非常有意思的，这个不是在玩文字游戏，这个是真实是这样子，真实的情况就是这样子，只不过我们没有发现而已。
So this really is a very interesting phenomenon. We are not simply playing a language game here. This really is how things are. It's only that up until now we haven't discovered it.
那么我们的这个无数的这个1秒钟当中呢，到底哪一个是我呢？
So of these countless seconds, which of them is me? Which is the self?
如果我们说这每1秒钟都是我，那么这样子的话，我们就应该承认有无数的我，但是我们不会这么认为，我们认为只有一个我。
If we argue that each of these seconds or all of these seconds are ourself, then we would be forced to concede that we have countless selves. But in fact, we don't think this is to be the case. We regard there to be only one self.
如果我们认为其中一个1秒钟是我，其他都不是，那么这样子也不对，这完全是瞎说。
However, if we were to say that only one of these moments among all of the countless other moments were oneself, then this would also be incorrect. This would be just nonsense.
这个我们真的要客观、公正的态度去观察一下，到底有没有我。因为我们先不说有我或者没有我，我们先不说不要有任何的成见然后以客观公正的态度去观察，最后是什么就是什么。
So we really need to use an open, objective, or we need to examine this in a very open and objective way, honest way too, whether or not the self exists. But let's not for the time being put the question in terms of whether or not the self exists. Let's take away any kind of postulate. Let's just say that whatever we observe to be the case is the case.
实际上，我们的身体就是无数个这个物质堆积一起，它没有一个东西，但是我们的意识把它当做一个我们的意识，这个是我们的意识，它的观念实际上是没有一个，是无数的东西。
Even though our bodies are made up of countless different components and there is not one single body to speak of, our mind regards our body as one single thing. So this is a view or an idea, a concept that our mind has, but in actual fact it's not the case. We're made up of countless parts.
然后我们的精神它也是一个无数的1秒钟也可以比1秒钟更小但是现在我们不说那么复杂，简单的说是无数的1秒钟。那么无数的1秒钟，这个当中也没有一个东西，但是我们的意识把无数的1秒钟连接起来，我们认为这是我。
And it's the same with our mind too. Our mind, we can say, is made up of a countless number of 1-second increments. So there isn't one thing called the mind. However, what our consciousness does is take all of these countless 1-second moments and connect them together and label this as one mind.
所以我们就像动物把稻草人当作人一样，我们把这么无数的东西就当作自我。
And it's just as like how the animal sees a scarecrow and takes it to be a person. We take these countless different increments and regard them to be a self, one self.
这个道理呢我们大家一定要明白，否则的话我们修心的时候就不知道怎么去修。
So it's really important that we understand this reasoning or this logic. If we don't, then when we practice, we don't know how to practice properly.
好，这个道理明白了以后呢，接下来我们给大家介绍这个具体的修心的方法。
So now that we have gained an understanding of this reasoning, we are going to move on to looking at a concrete method of practice.
然后打坐的时候，这个身体的姿势需要有身体的姿势，但是因为今天时间的关系，我们不讲我们在其他地方已经讲过很多次，大家可以通过这个网络到时候大家可以学习。
So first of all, when we meditate, it's important that we attend to our physical posture, but tonight we don't have enough time to go into this. I have taught on this on many other occasions, and everyone can look online for more detailed teaching on this.
然后我们调整这个呼吸还有就是这个观想释迦牟尼佛等等这些呢我们今天没有时间讲这些都实际上我们打坐的时候这些都要去做。
And in addition to our bodily posture, we also expel our breath prior to meditating. We visualize the Shakyamuni Buddha, but again, tonight there's no time to go through these preparatory stages for meditation in any detail. But every time we meditate, we need to do these preparatory or preliminary practices.
好，现在我们就要去全神贯注的去寻找自我。
So what we are going to do now is search our entire body for a self.
我们必须要看个清楚，到底我是什么。
It's really important that we see clearly what we in reality are.
我们每一天的这个生活当中有这么多的压力，这么多的烦恼，那么这些烦恼到底它来自于什么？
In our everyday lives, there is so much pressure and suffering. We need to discover where all of this pressure and suffering arises from.
好，这个观想的方法就是虽然是一个观想但是呢，它就比较血腥请大家不要介意。
So this involves a visualization, this visualization is a little bit bloody, but everyone please don't mind.
好，这个是我们打坐了以后然后呢静下来以后呢，然后我们观想首先把我自己的油烟分开来身体分开放在这里。
So first everyone become seated in meditation, calm down your mind. The first thing we do is visualize taking out our right eye and setting it down beside us.
看看我的这个油烟是不是我？这眼球是不是我？我们会说不是。
And then we examine whether this right eyeball is our self. And everyone, of course, will answer no.
然后呢，我们把左眼自己的左眼分开放在左边，然后看它是不是我。我们同样会说不是我。
And then we take our left eye, we remove our left eye and set it down beside us and ask whether or not this is ourself.
然后我们把全身的所有的肌肉、皮肤、骨骼全部这样子分开就是分开，然后呢再去看到底这些当中呢哪一个是我。比如说我们把所有身上的肌肉放在一块，然后呢所有的骨头放在一起皮肤放在一起，然后呢所有身上的所有的液体放在一起，然后呢看这些哪一个是我。
So we then go on and we work with our muscles, our skin, our skeleton. We divide them all, we remove them all and examine which of these is me, which of these is myself. We can put all of our muscles in a heap, put our bones in one heap, put our skin in one heap, and then imagine all of our bodily fluids in one heap too. And then we ask ourselves, which of these is ourself, which is me?
当然我们很多人会想这些都不能这样子分开，这个组合就是我这每一个东西分解了以后呢，它虽然不是我，但是呢这个组合就是我，自我。
Of course, many people will say you can't divide them in this way because myself is an aggregate or a combination of all of these things. Even though when I separate them, they aren't myself. When they're all put together, this is myself.
可以这么想，但是呢，实际上呢，除了这些东西以外呢，所谓的组合，也就是一个抽象的概念，实际上存在的就是这些。
It is, you might think in this way, however, in actuality, besides this way that they are, there is no other aggregate or combination. That is just an abstract notion. In reality, all that we are made up of is these things.
如果这样子的分开如果不太合适如果不太适应的话，那就好不分开。我们可以观察从头顶到这个脚就去寻找这个，比如说皮肤肌肉、骨骼每一个东西，看它是不是自我这样子去寻找以后呢，同样我们最后就发现，这些身上虽然有这么多东西，但是呢，它每一个都不符合这个自我的标准都不是自我。
If you don't find this method of visualization particularly suitable, then you can take another approach, and that is by examining, observing, moving from the top of your head to your feet, and one by one examining whether your skin, your muscles, your bones are the self, and search for the self in this way. And in so doing, we will discover that even though the body is made up of many different parts, none of these parts meets the criteria for self.
然后肉体这样子观察完了以后呢，然后我们开始对这个精神也要进行这样子的观察。
So after we have examined or investigated our physical bodies in this way, we then move on to our minds and do a similar investigation.
然后精神我们每一天都有很多很多不同的情绪一会儿高兴，一会儿不高兴一会儿有一会儿是这个嗔恨抱怨仇恨，然后一会儿呢有贪心。那么这么多无数的这个情绪当中，到底哪一个是自我？我们到这个无数的这个情绪当中去寻找这个自我。
And in doing this, we look at our mind. Our minds are made up of countless different moods and emotions. From one moment we're happy, the next moment we're unhappy. We experience resentment, then perhaps aversion or anger or desire. So what we need to do in this process is investigate which of these countless emotional states is our self. And so we search for the self in our different moods and emotions.
这样子观察的时候呢，最后我们的结论就是深深的体会到原来所谓的这个自我是不存在的存在的就是这个物质和我们的这个一秒钟一秒钟的这个精神除了这两个以外没有存在的东西。
By examining our minds in this way, we reach the conclusion, or rather we gain a deep experiential understanding that our so-called self doesn't exist. All that we find is ignorance and our mental states as they exist on a second-by-second basis. Besides this, there is no self.
那这样子观察的时候呢有些时候我们虽然是观察了，但是呢观察的这个思路不清晰思维比较模糊，然后呢效果也就不见得很好，也没有太大的效果有些时候。
Sometimes when we perform this examination, our contemplation, our thinking will not be so clear. We won't have a great deal of clarity. We'll be a little bit blurry in the way that we think, and so the results of this practice won't be necessarily so good.
没关系没关系，有些时候是这样子，没关系，只要能够坚持就会越来越好的。
But this doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that this is occasionally how it is. So long as we can persist with this practice, eventually we will see good results.
然后这些大作观想这些的方法我们没有办法每一个地方都从头讲所以我们在其他地方讲过的这些比较完整的这些课我们会放在这个网上大家到时候可以去参考学习。
As to exactly how we should contemplate at each juncture of this overall process. Tonight we don't have enough time to talk about. However, a more complete teaching on this contemplation process will be put online, and everybody can make use of this.
比如说我们前几天在华盛顿 DC 讲的那个课里面呢，有一个禅修的一个非常具体的一个方法。
A few days ago in DC, at a teaching given there, Kampo taught a very concrete method of practice.
然后这个大坐禅修的方法是我们修这个无我的时候呢也需要的。
And this meditation technique was also one that we need to use in the process of cultivating an understanding of no self.
然后有些时候我们的修行比较顺利的时候 然后我们的思路非常的清晰非常的清晰，然后呢观察一点都不模糊，非常的清楚，然后最后的结论是非常非常清楚的感受到原来这个所谓的自我是真实不存在的真正不存在，最后就是得到一个这样子的结论。
However, when our practice goes well, when we are able to contemplate with great clarity, that is, when we are able to do this examination with no blurriness or vagueness whatsoever, when we are able to gain a very clear experiential understanding, we will gain a very clear experiential understanding that this so-called self of ours does not exist.
然后这个时候我们的到这个时候，我们的结论，它不是一个理论上的知识，而是一种体会。
And at this point, the conclusion that we draw won't be a theoretical conclusion or just some kind of theoretical knowledge or understanding. It will be an embodied experiential understanding.
非常清楚地感受到自我的不存在。
It will be a very clear, embodied experience of the lack of existence of self.
这个时候，当我们有了这样子的感受，非常清楚的，而且比较强烈的这种感受，这样子的时候，然后我们不要再去思考，就在这个感受当中停下来。
So when we arrive at this clear, strong experience of no self, we shouldn't think or contemplate any further, but just abide in this experience.
保持这个感受。
And maintain this experience.
然后这个保持的时候怎么样保持那么这个就是需要这些禅修的这个方法。
As to how we go about maintaining this experience, we need some meditation techniques here. We need to apply some meditation techniques.
那禅修的具体的方法我们今天来不及讲但是呢我们刚刚讲过的就是我们在其他地方讲过的，大家可以去听。
Again, these specific meditation techniques we don't have time this evening to go into. However, they have been taught on in other locations, and again, everyone can look at these teachings online.
然后我们观察的时候呢观察的时候突然间发现原来这个自我是不存在，有一种非常的震撼。
When through our examination we suddenly discover that this self of ours in fact is non-existence, we will feel a strong sense of shock.
我们每个人这个时候一定会感到非常的惊讶。
Everyone at this moment will necessarily feel extremely surprised.
为什么震撼？为什么惊讶？就是因为我们一直都以为就存在一个自我，我们为了这个自我就吃了很多很多的苦付出了很多很多的代价但是现在这样子一观察的时候呢，我们突然间它是不存在这样子当然是非常的震撼非常的惊讶。
So why the shock? Why the surprise? Well, when we discover that this self that we've always believed to exist, and this self, for the sake of this self, we've really undergone a lot of hardship, we've paid great prices for this self that we've believed to exist. When we discover all of a sudden that in fact it does not exist, then of course we feel surprise and shock.
这个时候不要恐惧不要有其他的这个念头，这个时候就尽量的就保持住那个时候的感受。但是这个时候，因为我们刚刚 修行可能最多也就是30秒钟1分钟这个只能维持这么长的时间。
So upon gaining this realization, don't feel fear and don't give rise to other thoughts. As far as possible, just abide in this feeling or in this experience. Due to the fact that we are just beginners to meditation, however, the period of time for which we are likely to be able to maintain this experience is only likely to be 30 seconds to 1 minute.
这个发现真的是一个非常非常有意义的发现。
But this discovery really is an extremely meaningful discovery.
外面的很多的知识我们可以有，也可以没有。
External knowledge, we might possess it, but we don't need to possess it.
控制我们的情绪控制我们的烦恼的这个知识，我们必须要有。
However, the knowledge knowledge as to how to control our moods and our conflictions and afflictions, this knowledge is something that we do require.
这个时候我们发现所有的烦恼都是无中生有。
So at this point we will discover that all of our afflictions are without reason or cause.
这个虽然还没有那个像正悟大圆满、正悟明心见性、正悟大受用，虽然没有那么高的境界。
So even though at this point our realization will not be as advanced as having realized the meaning of Dzogchen or understood the self-nature of mind or the view of Mahamudra,
但是在现实生活当中控制自己的情绪是非常非常管用的。
Nevertheless, this realization is extremely effective in terms of controlling one's emotional states in one's everyday life.
这个叫做无我的修法，平时我们每天都要做一点训练。
So this is a meditation practice on no self. We should typically do practice every day.
还有一个比如说这个刚才我们讲的是对我们自己的观察另外一个是对他人的观察。
So what we've just looked at is an examination or investigation that is oriented to ourselves. Besides this, there is also a way of examining or investigating that is oriented to others.
那他人我们为什么要观察呢？我们也不会执着别人那为什么要观察呢？
So why is it necessary for us to investigate others? We're not attached to them, so why should we necessarily investigate others?
不能说不执着别人应该是说我们不会这个对他人有我执有我执，那为什么要观察呢？
So perhaps we shouldn't say that we're not attached to others, but rather that we don't have self-clinging in respect of others. So why then is it necessary for us to perform this investigation in respect of others?
好，两个时候我们需要观察。
There are two kinds of occasions when we should do this investigation.
第一个我们有些时候对某些人对某一个人特别的恨我们这个嗔恨控制不住对某一个人特别的生气抱怨，然后呢这个任何办法任何一个方法都不能解决，不能控制自己的情绪这样子的时候呢，那我们把这个人观想在我的前面就像我们就像把这个人现在站在我的前面。
So the first kind of occasion when we should do this practice is if we feel an extremely strong sense of hatred towards someone. a feeling of hatred that we're not able to control, or a feeling of extreme anger or resentment that we are not able to bring under control by relying on any other methods. In this case, we should visualize this person in front of us, visualize them standing in front of us.
然后呢，我们就是刚才的这种方法我们首先把这个人的油烟，然后就作烟，然后把身上的所有的肌肉、所有的骨骼、所有的分界然后看我到底对这个人我到底对什么东西生气？我对这个油烟生气，还是对这个作烟生气，还是对这个皮肤、肌肉、骨骼对什么东西生气？观察。
So in terms of the method, it's just the same as the one that we learnt just now. So we visualize this person in front of us, and we remove their left eye, their right eye, their muscles, and their bones, and we ask of each of these things, which of these am I angry with? Is it the right eye? Is it the left eye? Is it the skin? Is it the muscles? Is it the bones?
那我们一定会说我不是对他的皮肤生气，我不是对他的肌肉生气，我也不是对他的骨骼生气，我就是对他生气。
And necessarily, we will say, well, I'm not angry at her skin, I'm not angry at her muscles, I'm not angry at her bones, I'm angry at her.
那这些除了这些以外，他是什么呢？他是谁呢？他还有什么呢？剩下来的就是他的精神、意识。
But besides these things, what else is she? We might say that besides these things, the only thing, remaining thing that she might be is her mind.
那我们是不是对他的意识生气呢？那我们一定会说不，这个更不是了。他意识我们根本看不到。他的意识是他自己知道我们根本看不到他的精神世界是什么，我们更不是对他的精神生气，这个更不可能。
And in this case, we would then say, so if we were to ask, are we angry with her consciousness? Then we would answer, no, we're not angry with her consciousness. We can't see her consciousness. Her consciousness is only something that she has experience of, so this is even less viable.
那么，不是对这些东西生气那么真的是没有了，它就是这些了，没有别的。
However, if we're not angry at either of these things, the physical components of her body or her consciousness, well, she is none other than these things.
最后呢，我们观察的结论是什么？最后我们发现，原来是我自己心中的他，我对他生气，我自己想象当中的他生气。
So ultimately, what we discover is that we are angry with the she that we imagine in our own minds, and it is this own imagined she that we feel anger towards.
这个时候我们本来是对他特别特别生气的时候呢，这个生气立即就会降温立即就会降下来，一下子就会降下，最后我也不知道我对他的什么东西生气最后就这个嗔恨心就会下降。
So when we contemplate in this way, our original feeling of extreme anger will immediately dissipate, such that that we will find ourselves wondering what it is we are angry with, and in this way, our feeling of aversion will be reduced or disappear.
就是有些时候我们觉得我们自己真的是很奇怪的一个现象是什么？比如说，我们明明知道这样子可以解决我的烦恼嗔恨心但我就是要生气，我就不想这样子解决我就要生气。
Sometimes we we encounter a very strange phenomenon, and that is we understand very well that this method is able to resolve our anger, but we still don't want to use it. We just feel as if we want to be angry.
当然，如果你想这个生气，当然可以继续生气。如果你不愿意生气的话，那通过这个方法就可以停止。
Of course, if you wish to be angry, then you can continue with your anger. However, if you don't wish to be angry, then you can apply this method and enable your anger to stop.
好，这是第一个时候。然后第二个时候呢，我们什么时候可以用呢？比如说，当我们特别的喜欢一个人，特别的执着一个人，不能自拔，然后这个执着、这个喜欢就是困扰，非常的影响到我们的生活和这个工作然后呢，我实际上是我不愿意这个执着这个执着实际上是我不想有的因为它对我的生活对我的工作都有很大的影响，实际上我不想有但是呢我就是控制不住这个情绪，那么这个时候我们可以用这种方法。
The second occasion that is appropriate for using this method is when we feel a very strong sense of desire or clinging to a person to the extent that we are not able to control our feeling, and to an extent that our desire and attachment for another person disturbs our life and our work. And a situation where we are not willing, we don't want this level of attachment, we don't wish to experience such strong desire because of the impact that it is having on our life. So in a situation where we're not able to control our feelings in this way, we can apply this method.
同样的方法我们把这个人就观想就是像他站在我的这个前面。
In which case we use the same approach. We visualize the person standing in front of us.
然后我们把这个油烟分开，喜欢吗？不喜欢。
And we first remove the right eye and look at it, ask whether we like it, and answer no.
左眼分开下来，喜欢吗？也说不喜欢。
And then remove the left eye, ask ourselves whether it's this that we like.
皮肤、肌肉、骨骼全部分开，喜欢吗？每一个东西都不喜欢。
And similarly, we remove the skin, the muscles, the bone, and in respect of each of them, we ask whether it is this that we are desiring, and we conclude no.
然后呢，你喜欢的东西在不在这些东西里面呢？我们会说不在，这些都不是我喜欢的。
So if we ask whether that which we like and desire resides in any of these things, everyone will answer no, it's not these things that they like or desire.
好，那么这些东西都不是，那么现在只剩下是他的意识、精神。
So if it is none of these things that we feel such strong desire for, then the only remaining thing is the person's consciousness.
意识和精神就是我们刚才讲的，实际上就只有1秒钟，你就喜欢哪1秒钟？
However, consciousness and mind, as we just saw, are only made up of 1 second components. Is this what we like and desire?
最后也不知道应该喜欢哪1秒钟。
So finally we find ourselves not knowing which second it is that we should be liking.
所以我们的所有的这个喜怒哀乐，所有的这些情绪，都是一个不进行任何的观察不进行任何的观察，一个盲目的执着的情况下产生的。
So we can thereby see that all of our emotions and mental states like this are produced through blind attachment in a state of non-examination.
一观察了以后，就立即就发现真相 就是原来就是我们自己没有观察而已，实际上不是这样子。
As soon as we examine things, we discover the truth. It's only that up until this point, we haven't done so.
但是我们观察的时候控制得特别好，情绪啊、烦恼啊，立即就会降温观察得特别好。但是我们大做大完了以后，回到现实生活的时候呢，然后全部都会恢复。
However, if we are able to bring our emotions under control, calm down our emotional state through this meditation process, we will find, however, that when we return to our everyday lives, that things will become as they originally were.
那是什么原因呢？就是因为我们的修心的时间还不够长。
And the reason that things return to their original state is just because the period that we have been practicing for is not sufficiently long.
这个我们如果大家不相信每一个人就亲自去试一试，我们立即就会感受得到，确实是这样子。
If you find yourself not believing this, then you should try it out for yourselves, and immediately you will gain experience of it.
比如说我们就是有一周的时间，然后每天用8个小时的时间去修这样子的话，那就是这个一周结束的时候呢，这个我们情绪这个控制情绪上面一定会有一个明显的变化。
Even just in the space of 1 week, if we were to spend 8 hours every day engaging in this practice, then at the end of 1 week, we would find that our ability to control our emotional states would have conspicuously changed.
这个观点，这个方法呢，根本就不是一个存在的东西，最后说成是不存在这是真实是这样子但是我们没有观察，以前从来都没有观察。我们生下来的时候，我们认为这都是存在，我也存在，大家都存在，从来都没有怀疑，所以一直都处于一个盲目的状态，所以我们没有发现这些真相。
So this view that we have been looking at is not a case of claiming that something that is existent is non-existent. In reality, our self is non-existent. It is only the fact that up until now we have not examined it. We have not investigated it. From the very time that we were born, we've always regarded ourself to be existent. We've never doubted it for a second, and so we have always existed. We've always our belief in the existence of self has always been a blind belief, and because of this, we've never discovered the truth.
这个方法非常的简单。我们首先把这个理论知识学一下稍微学一下学完了以后呢，随时都可以用。
So this method of meditation or method of contemplation is a very simple one. First of all, we just need to grasp its theoretical underpinning, and then after that we can apply it at any time in our lives.
这样子以后呢，一方面呢，我们可以成功的控制我们自己平时根本就无法控制的这些情绪。
And through implementing this practice, we will be able to bring under control our emotional states that typically we are not able to control.
同时呢，我们也就发现了自我它到底是个什么。
And at the same time, we will discover what our self really is.
这是因为这个还没有达到像大圆满、大受益这样子的这么高的境界，所以这个我们还没有那么高境界的人都可以用。
So because this method of practice doesn't require a view, or it doesn't correspond with a level of realization as advanced as Dzogchen or Mahamudra practice, people without such an advanced view or practice are able to apply or make use of this meditation practice.
这个就是这就是佛教的突破自我、超越自我。
So this is a Buddhist approach to transcending self or transcending ego.
挑战自我。
An approach to challenging ego.
所以这种训练平时我们很多人是不做的这个训练实际上是真正我们把内心当中的很多的东西很多的负面的东西可以很容易的解决，这是一个非常好的方法。
This particular training method is one that many people usually just don't do, but by means of this method, it is possible for us to 其实你内心里面的负面的东西，其实
这是解决我们的内心的负面东西的一个很好的方法。
But this method of training, or this method, is in fact a very easy method for resolving many negative aspects of our inner minds.
希望我们就是我们在座的有兴趣的人都每天短短的时间当中做一点点的这个训练。
So I hope tonight that among those of you who are interested in this, that in every day you're able to dedicate a small amount of time to this practice.
然后这个做好了以后呢，然后我们可以进一步再修更高的更深的这些法。
And once everyone has practiced this method well, in the future we can move on to practicing more advanced and deep methods.
我们今天的这个课就讲到这里我希望我们今天所有的人能够听得懂除了听得懂以外希望每一个人能够用得上。
So this is the end of tonight's teaching. I hope that everyone tonight understood this teaching and moreover is able to put into practice the teaching.
最后我们大家一起做一个回向。
We are going to end now with a dedication of merit.
Sonum dei tamjo zombanya domne ni be danam panjeja Jirganan ji walong zhe bai zhe bin zo lin zhou 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 Om hong ben zhen ge zhen ba ma se de hong Om hong ben zhen ge zhen ba ma se de hong Om hong ban zhe ge zhe ba ma se de hong 谢谢大家，大家晚安，参巴拉扎西的来着。